Hello. What's that? Well, I thought I'd keep up with my schedule, lest I immediately break it. So here I am. Still getting used to all this. So I thought I'd, push myself onto the stage with the broom. Feeling quite, sleepy? Not so much tired. See, there's a big difference between sleepy and tired. You may disagree, but I'm right. So, thought I'd pop in and do a short little thing. Let's keep it simple. I said, you gotta remember KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So we're keeping it simple and stupid. Just simple. Just a quick little doodad. I think that's good. I think that's healthy. Oh yeah. So we're gonna take a look at a cryptid today. I thought I'd. Well, I had other plans, but I decided just fuck it, fuck everything. Just I'm gonna choose a single cryptid, and we're just gonna look at him. That's it. We're here for one guy, one man, one clown. We're gonna take a look at him, and you better be interested. All right. All right. Thank you. I guess we could get down to business. Let me scoot on over. What are we looking at for music? I want to keep this, but then I'd have to keep turning it on when it runs out. Like that. Psych. Let's see. I hope this ain't too scary. He's kind of a funny guy. A lot of people are creeped out by clowns, but I kind of, I had to have someone tell me that clowns are innately creepy. I kind of just like clowns. I think they're funny dudes. Like, there are creepy clowns, but to me, that's separate from the good clowns. The good kinds. Now, this guy, I'm not sure where he stands. Probably somewhere in between. So this is a bit of a lesser known cryptid in the pantheon. I don't know why, honest. I would think that this guy would be a lot more well known. He's kind of got this mascot thing going on. I feel like he should be like a a Zoomer obsession. They should be making bootleg plushies of him or something. But he's just Sam, the Sandown clown of England. Alright, so this comes from Cryptopia. Fun little resource. And they have their own podcast. That be him. I like Cryptopia. They have little... They have good little illustrations. Well, they classify their monsters. This one's unclassified. What is this? The unclassified. It's classified as an unclassified. Alright. There should be a clown class. In the spring of 1973, 2 children had a run-in with an inexplicable clown-like entity that eerily beckoned them from beneath a bridge and managed to lead them into what some have speculated was an alternate dimension. Now, I spoke about this briefly yesterday, but in what is called the Fortean, I guess the Fortean lore, Fort was like one of the earliest guys to document unexplained phenomena. I think his name's Fort. Maybe it's Forte. Will Forte. But of the unexplained phenomena lore of the 20th century and I believe 19th century and late 18th century is when the West started getting into spiritualism and whatnot. But anyway, I'm getting very broad with it. My mind is wandering, but where'd my train of thought go? I got lost in the ether. What was I talking about? I wish I could hit rewind. Anyway, there's a fucking clown. You can see him right here. That's him. Ah, yes. So unexplained phenomena kind of have this lineage, and some of the, well, if you go really way back, it begins with kind of like Greek mythology explaining things, but ADHD. But so I guess directly before sort of the nuclear age science fiction spin on things, there was the fairy spin, the fae folk, magic folk. So if you study this sort of thing, it kind of goes back. It's directly tied. Fairies, and then aliens and cryptids emerged around the same time. You can classify them as like eras. Before that, it was like folklore and, you know, fairies. But it's this sort of lineage And many theorize that they are, in fact, the same thing. A UFO, if someone reports a nuts and bolts UFO, what they're reporting is the same phenomena as, you know, what may have led someone to encounter a Bigfoot. And before that, fairies getting lost in the woods in an alternate dimension. You know, gnomes and fairies dragging kids back. And there would be big, big lots of time that would just disappear, right? This is true with both UFO encounters, aliens, and fairies. So, fairies sounds very silly, but that's only because they got replaced with aliens, which are still silly, granted. But, they're more familiar to us, right? It's like, fairies, what are you, Little Miss Tuffet? Yes. Yes, I am. But yeah. So this guy kind of reminds me of, like, something fairy-like. This is 1973. Alright? In England, a time of turmoil, a lot of change. You may think that these things are related, and you'd be right. There was a big spike in this kind of thing when there's sort of a mental instability in the world at large. You tend to see spikes of you know, people fucking hallucinating things. Quote unquote hallucinating, because we all know that he real. He real. In the southeast region of England, located in the English Channel. Channel? No, I think it's just Channel. About 2 miles off the coast of Hampshire is the Isle of Wight. This tourist destination is renowned for its temperate climate, natural beauty, and one very bizarre encounter with an intelligent and apparently non-human entity. On the east coast of the isle is the coastal resort town of Sandown. That's kind of a nice name. Sounds relaxing. Okay, so it's a nice scenic place. There's a golf club. There's a lot of fields out there in England. So this cryptid is going to be one of... He's going to be found in nature. Kind of, he's going to beckon children into nature. So he's kind of like that witch that lured Hansel and Gretel. Except he doesn't turn them into pastries. And I like him. He's one of my favorite cryptids. He doesn't get recognized enough. I think he might be too goofy for nowadays as a cryptid. I think cryptids more or less, the ones that are remembered are more or less like more zoological, kind of like flesh and blood. So I guess people outright dismiss this guy, even though he might just be an alien, a robot alien, which robotic entities are found a lot alongside aliens. Freak, have you heard of Sam the Sandown Clown of England? In May of 1973, at about 4 p.m. on the day in question, a 7-year-old girl named Faye, a pseudonym, they used to respect people's privacy, was wandering around the golf course with an unnamed male friend who was approximately the same age. The duo were exploring the nooks and hills of this great expanse when they were both startled by a sound that they compared to the wail of an ambulance in the distance. Oh, this is so fitting. The young children, filled with both natural curiosity and a sense of invulnerability that comes before dawning awareness of their own mortality, swiftly set out to locate and identify the source of the hauntingly repetitive screech. I mean, I think I'd be curious enough to go and look. You know, it's just a sound. I'd like to know if, you know, it was like a helicopter or something. These fledgling explorers pushed through the thick hedgerow and made their way to a swampy pasture, which was adjacent to the oft-abandoned Sandown airport. Oft-abandoned. So it was, I guess it was like a personal airport. A small one. The moment Faye and her companion came into the clear, the intermittent shrieking ceased. This makes me think a lot of how into modernity we're clearing more and more forest. The landscape is becoming more bare. Not only are we removing places for animals to hide, but if you think about it, there's less place for like a cryptid, a chance encounter with something weird, anything really. It doesn't even have to be something some unknown phenomena, but I guess we trade in safety for a sort of wonder. Everything is known now. Everything except the bottom of the ocean. There's less mystery. There's less adventure. It's kind of cool that in New Jersey there's a lot of forest left still. But it used to be like this all around the world. Now there's fucking townhouses everywhere instead. Yeah, I guess people need to live. But we've seen a lot less clowns around. Except for that one year. Not content to forego this mystery without at least a cursory search of the area, the two intrepid investigators pressed forward. I think he's being very verbose here. The kids are just out exploring, looking for a sign of the thing that had made the startling noise. As the pair crossed over a wooden footbridge that traversed a narrow creek, they experienced the shock of their young lives. Bufora Journal. Bufora these nuts. Ghost or spaceman. Without warning, a large three-fingered hand, clad in what appeared to be a blue glove, emerged from beneath the bridge and urged the youngsters to come forward. The kids, seemingly more curious than they were concerned, did not run away, but stared in astonishment as an utterly unbelievable humanoid figure arose from beneath the bridge. The first publicized description of this unique entity was circulated in the British UFO Research Association's journal. Norman Oliver. Titled Report Extra. Ghost or Spaceman, 73. In it, Oliver reported what the children had claimed to have been seen emerging from under the old wooden bridge. He was nearly 7 feet tall and had no neck, for his head appeared to be wedged straight onto his shoulders. Really? Well, they gave him a neck here. Guess it's kind of a neck. It could just be a band holding his hood in place. For his head appeared to be wedged onto his shoulders. He wore a yellow pointed hat, which interlocked with the red collar of a tattered green tunic. A round black knob was affixed to the top of his hat, and wooden antennae were attached either side. So he's a wooden robot. He's like a wood golem. But as you'll soon see, there's like electronic components to him. He's very 1970s for sure. He's like a wood grain robot guy. The face had triangular markings for eyes, a round square of nose, and emotionless yellow lips. Round markings were on his paper white cheeks, and a fringe of red hair fell onto his forehead. Wooden slats protruded from his sleeves, and from below his white trousers. So, the wooden slats protruding are very funny. Because seemingly, like, I think they mean they were part of his structure, but in my mind, he's just carrying logs around. Like 2x4s. And he sounds a lot like some kind of toy. Like a child's toy. The children also noticed that the entity had only 3 white toes. That's right, boys and girls. It's a scummy, barefoot robo-puppet clown from hell. Oh, shut up. Don't talk to him like that. At this moment of what we may well have been first contact between the human race and a being of unknown origin, the creature did something uncannily clownish. He began fumbling a book that he had been holding, dropping it into the water below. Faye and her cohort watched this erratic clown-like being as it almost comically splashed around in the creek in an attempt to retrieve the book. He's a funnier character than we've ever had. The entity leapt out of the water and moved away from the children, employing a high-kneed hopping gait, not unlike that of an astronaut moving about on the lunar surface. So maybe gravity effect. He was used to different gravity in his where he comes from, and this is a very childish creation, if you want to call him that. Within moments, the being disappeared inside what looked to the school children to be a small windowless metallic hut comparable to those used in construction sites. So it's like one of those, what are they called? Hangars? The perplexed kids simply stared at the structure for a bit, and then decided it was time to leave. So it seemed to be a hut, you know, attached to the ground. He's saying, was it a space vehicle? Well, I don't know. Maybe, like, the building was between dimensions? Because it's a lot different from what you'd expect a interdimensional being or an alien to travel in. Maybe it was a tunnel or something. When they were about 150 feet away from the structure, the entity re-emerged. this time holding a device which resembled the black-knobbed microphone, with a white flex attached to a small box that apparently served as an amplifier. The wailing noise immediately returned, this time being so loud that the boy was scared away and began to run. Faye turned and was about to follow her friend when the screeching sound faded. The mechanized clown began to speak into the microphone. The pair would later claim that they heard his voice with perfect clarity, as it asked them a seemingly obvious question. "Are you still there?" So, apparently he employed some kind of device to let him speak through dimensions. This is very much an interdimensional being. Play School Mr. Mike voice changer tape recorder. And it kind of looks like him. That's him. That's a Sam larvae. The boy stopped running, and he and Faye came to the conclusion that this clown-like creature's voice had a friendly, non-threatening tone. At this point, the clown-like being raised his presumably still moist book, opened it, and in a large, childish scroll wrote a message. Faye cautiously approached the clown creature and inspected the writing. "Hello, and I am all colors Sam." I wonder how accurate this was to what they saw. With apostrophe and all. This was his interpretation of the English language. Pretty good for an interdimensional being. "Hello, and I am all colors Sam. This is how I speak." Alright, cryptids have a sort of dialect of their own. They process language differently than humans, so that's why I talk in kind of a stilted manner. Verbose, yet very dumb. We're a lot alike, Sam and I. Seeing as Faye had not been harmed by the unusual visitor, the boy gained the pluck to join her next to the looming figure. The children then learned that the creature named Sam was able to talk without the aid of a microphone. I wonder why he used the microphone first and then just talked normally. The kids were fascinated by the being's ability to talk without moving its lips. Again, pointing to the mechanical nature of this fella. Faye would state that even though the thing was able to speak perfect English, the sounds it made were distorted. Rather like an individual who was incapable of opening their mouth properly, or perhaps a creep hiding behind a wooden mask. If it were just some guy, why do all of this? Now, 73 was kind of a peak serial killer era, so I mean, he does have a point. This would be pretty fucking scary for some kids. But I guess they were lucky. They just encountered a clown. And as we all know, no clown has ever done anything bad. The children began to feel comfortable enough to start asking questions. Caught on appearances, as kids often are, the duo asked the being why his clothes were all torn. Sam replied that they were the only clothes that he had available. Fixated on the humanoid's strangely immobile features and paper white skin, she mustered the courage to ask Sam if he was human. His reply was simply no. Anxious about his status as a paranormal entity, They then asked Sam if he was a ghost. The strange being replied, "Well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way." Same. Man, that was... I think I'm related. In another life, in another time, I would have been Sam. Sam Clown. Quick on her feet, the kids retorted. "What are you then?" Sam vaguely replied, "You know." Adding no further explanation. He's kind of sassy. I think he's a very likable character. The creature then went on to explain that although he had indicated that his moniker was Sam in the book, he had no real name. He also claimed that there were others like him on the earth, and further confessed that he was frightened of people and scared that they might hurt him, stating that if he were attacked, he would not fight back. Poor Sam. But he also had friends. I mean, in my book, this is all just true. I mean, I'm here. I'm on Earth. You know, Sam kind of spinning facts. He got some real shit to say. This was decades before I was around. I think they would have persecuted Sam for speaking the truth. I think the world just wasn't ready for Sam. In what is perhaps his most disconcerting move, the being then invited the children to enter his metal-sided, eerily windowless hut through a small flap-like opening in the side. The kids crawled through, followed by the creature. The hut. It was divided into 2 levels. The lower level had blue-green wallpaper and covered with a pattern of dials. It also had an electric heater and some basic wooden furniture. The upper level was not as expansive and had a metal floor. I'm picturing it in my head. It's kind of like a 2-level studio apartment. I think Sam had peak real estate. Sam. Not Sam. Nah, he's Sam. Told them that he managed to survive feeding on berries that he collected in the late afternoon, and that he got his water from the nearby river, but cleaned it before he consumed it. His purification process was not described. He's a forager. Sam also confided in the children the existence, but not the specific site, of a secret camp that he maintained, which was located somewhere in mainland England. Once inside the hut, Sam removed his hat to reveal a pair of rounded white ears and sparse patch of brownish hair. Next, the creature did something truly outlandish. The children testified that the creature placed a berry in his ear, then lunged his head forward, causing the berry to disappear and reappear in one of his triangular eye sockets. After repeating the head movement, the berry reached his mouth. He seems to be hollow. And you could also do sleight of hand magic tricks. There should be a Sam VTuber. Kind of look like electrical sockets. Oliver speculated that this unusual trick might have been a process used by a biological robot to verify the quality and potential toxicity of the berry before he consumed it. Oliver, the kid, speculated this. Or it could be a supernatural entity attempting to entertain a pair of kids. Or a weird man in a wooden clown mask performing a magic trick. There's simply no way to know for sure. I know. I know Sam was real. The children remained inside the hut for the better part of a half hour, asking Sam questions and receiving ambiguous answers. They were playing 20 questions with the guy. After a while, they said goodbye, and, despite Sam's only nebulous admittance to such, hurried out across the golf links to tell the first person that they ran into that they had seen, not only seen, but talked to a genuine ghost. I mean, he didn't say he was a ghost. He didn't confirm he was a ghost. He said he was kind of like a ghost. And I think what he meant was he was kind of on a different plane. He was kind of overlaid on our dimension. But really, he was in some sort of a in-between state, which kind of makes him a ghost. So this might be one of the most interviewed cryptid phenomenon of all time. They talked to him for like half an hour. He didn't reveal much, but they got some good time with him. I think he's a good guy. I sense no ill intent on part of Sam. The first individual they ran into was likely a groundskeeper who laughed at their outlandish tale, assuming it was nothing more than a flight of fancy or a prank. And the kids got greatly upset. Faye took a few weeks to tell her father. Designated in Oliver's article as Mr. Y. Wonder how long it took the kid to write an article. I guess it was later in his life. At first he did not pay too much attention, but started to be convinced due to the extraordinary level of detail of the account. Her friend also supported the Faye's description of the weird incident. Supported the Faye. You know, one day I gotta tell my tale of, I don't think I've ever told anybody the story of the sort of, role play that me and my next door neighbor had as kids. I was like in the 4th grade, and it was quite a tale. With a bit of a let's say spiritual characters and lore. I might have to like write an article. But it's kid stuff. I could see the kids just making this up. I wouldn't be, you know. I wouldn't believe them outright, honestly. Extraordinary level of detail of the account. That's simple. You could do that. So the question that we are left with is, what exactly was No Name Sam? Oh yeah, I've also heard him called No Name Sam, which is a funny oxymoron. Was he an alien, a ghost, or an interdimensional being? A biological robot, a supernatural entity, an ultra-terrestrial? What the hell is an ultra-terrestrial? I honestly don't know. Like he's on all. He's He's kind of exists omnisciently. Independently wealthy practical joker. Now, how the fuck would you make a hangar, set up a hangar, and then make it disappear that quickly? What is the joke here? What is the practical joke? And that's also why this is kind of a remembered thing and not like it wasn't just lost to time. It's because it was so fucking strange that it kind of became an urban legend of itself, you know? Like, why would anyone try to hoax this? It doesn't make any sense. So, what I go with is he's an interdimensional being, but I wouldn't call him either a robot or a supernatural entity. I think he's simply existing in some state between dimensions where he has to convert either out of necessity or I guess study, converts berries into some sort of a fuel for himself. This will likely remain unsolved. Yes, very likely. How would you solve this? At this point, if some old guy popped up and said, "Yeah, that was me," he wouldn't be believed anyway. Unless he perfectly preserved both the costume and the hut. Like the Unabomber's cabin. Warn your children if you ever happen to see a three-fingered blue glove emerge. While the lack of additional reports might mean that this was just a one-shot deal, it might also mean that the other kids who ran into these inhuman ghost clowns never got the chance to tell their stories. It was the 70s. I believe in him. I like Sam. I think he's a good guy. He was just misunderstood. As all cryptids are. I'd be more afraid of a human than a cryptid. Except for the whole radiation poisoning thing. Sam, you will not be forgotten. Samuel. Samuel. What do you think about Sam? Write in to the show. Live from the crypt mail at gmail.com. Let me double check. Let me double check to see that that is indeed the correct email. Is it live? Is the name of my show live from the crypt or live at the crypt? The crypt or live? Whoop. Got a little double speak there. Live. It is indeed live from the crypt. Okay. How could I remember this? I should write it on a sticky note. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.